All right, so we're recording, and we've probably gone on this video 3 or 4 times because of little glitches and things like that. So we're hoping this one is good, and you guys will get to see the process of me looking at my custom shoes that are being created by Community Made and going through this process. So I'm going to, give the questions. Thank Noah for joining us again. And
Absolutely.
in the description, you'll find a website link, communitymade.com. If you guys want to make your own custom footwear, the link is in the description, and I'll have it all over the website underneath each one of these videos. So, Noah, the first question I have is, what exactly are we looking at here?
We're looking at the finished uppers. So Richard, who you saw in the last video, spent the last few days putting these together. That involves the whole kind of floppy 3D upper here, like you're seeing. That involves the upper that we designed, and then all the lining on the inside as well. And then we're also looking at the lasts.
All right, so I got to stop you because, yeah, obviously I know what the last is. But some people watching this may not have any idea of what a last is, and I need you to explain what exactly and why is the last important.
The last was one of the first steps actually in Europe of industrialization, in moving manufacturing towards mass production and not just making every shoe stretched over someone's foot. And in terms of industrialization in general, this was one of the first things that really pushed mass production of things beyond shoes as well. So the uppers are stretched around the last, and it's basically something that a brand develops as a foot mold to make the shoes around. So for this one, you can see Community One Last, men's size 13, because that's Chris's size of shoe here. So it'll be stretched around that. This is a last that we have developed via universal athletic. So we can do anything from a cup sole to a running EVA or another kind of foam jogger bottom, or we could even do something like a work sole boot sole on this, just because we have so many options with having a versatile last like with what we have.
All right, so right now the shoe, like the upper of the shoe is all floppy, and
Yeah.
it's how does the shoe keep its shape when you're going through that process of putting it on the last and
Yeah.
holding everything together? You have to get it onto the bottom of the, you have to get the midsole on there, the outsole.
hmm
How exactly does it keep its shape, and what type of lasting do you have to use to keep well, the lasting doesn't have anything to do with the shape, but what type of lasting do you use to get the upper onto the midsole?
Yeah. So two questions there: the shape and then type of lasting.
Yeah.
So what helps maintain the shape are first off stiffeners in the heel and the toe. We call those counters. So heel or toe counters. Those look like
So
these.
I got to stop that. There's a heel counter.
Yeah. So this is
Everyone's heard of the heel counter.
say
I
that.
haven't heard of the toe counter.
So the toe counter is basically the same as the heel counter. It just goes in the toe. So it's last
Okay.
this. It'll go with this one in between the layers of the lining and the exterior leather. And
Hmm.
it's heat activated. So then once it is heat activated and then stretched around the last, it molds to the shape. And then we let it sit on the last, the whole thing, for at least 24 hours. So then not only is the thermoplastic counters molded to the shape of the last, but the leather itself stretches and molds as well.
Okay. Okay, I got that. Now, um, I'm interested in the lining because I didn't like ask about the lining when we were doing the. What is the lining made out of?
The lining is a smooth leather, really thin, really soft. And we did full lining on this one because of the accent stitching that comes
Okay.
through on the upper material.
Yeah.
Full lining here will just make that much softer up against the foot. All our shoes
Yeah,
are,
I appreciate that
yeah,
too.
and all our shoes are made to be worn either with socks or barefoot. So that's one of the reasons that with this type of thing we would do a full lining, so that if you are wearing the shoe barefoot, that it is still soft and not abrasive against the foot.
Okay. Okay. And now, real quick question about breathability. Because you've done that stitching, those holes kind of act as perforations,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Exactly.
Okay, cool. I think I got a couple more questions. I'm trying to think
You
of
also
what
asked
exactly
about
it is.
uh,
Go ahead.
you had asked about so the lasting process as well. So
Yeah.
for this one, what we currently use is board lasting. So that involves a piece of material, whether it's hard, like thicker material for something like this shoe that we do on a cup sole. We use a harder lasting board. This one we use a softer bonded leather lasting board that's soft, so you can feel that softness of the foam through it. And basically that gets hammered onto the last, and then you stretch the upper around that, and you then hammer this and glue it onto the lasting board, and then you let it sit for 24 hours, like I was saying, and then you take the whole thing, including the lasting board, off the last. There are other types of lasting, like strobel lasting or string lasting, all of which we would love to use, but right now, LA manufacturing in particular does not. That we have yet to find a resource that can help us out with that. We'd love to bring it on over here, and we're working towards that. So now it's lasting.
All right, cool. And that's for the people that are watching, you guys that are like sneaker culture people, and you see like these guys, a shoe surgeon, and all of these different people that deconstruct their shoe. What you have just kind of heard explained in detail is exactly what those guys are doing when they deconstruct the shoe and then put it all back together again. The instance here is this is a shoe that we made. It's not something that was sitting on a shelf for a long time. So I think what I want to ask is how many hours so far have been placed into this shoe?
Thus far, other than the time that we've spent on the phone,
Yeah.
so the labor itself that Richard has done for the uppers has probably been about 2 to 3 hours.
All right, cool. So the 2 to 3 hours, and that's not a lot of time.
No.
Not a lot of time. It is a lot of time, but it's not a lot of time for a bespoke product that you're able to get, which leads me to my final question. And we're going to wrap up this video because I think it's just really good for everybody to get a look at exactly how the process works. And the last question I have is when you compare what you're doing right now to what the traditional or bigger brands are doing, can you explain why exactly? And then kind of turn the shoe around so people can see the full, construction of the shoe. But can you explain why this is better for the environment than what the bigger companies are doing when they produce shoes in China? I really want to stress the importance of why this is a lot more efficient and better product for the environment.
So, I mean,
So
bespoke
that's the
products like
question.
this like we've been talking about, does not result in thousands of these sitting on a shelf somewhere waiting for wholesalers or customers to buy them, taking up warehouse space, gaining dust, carbon emissions to create this massive amount rather than just making it to order like we're doing here. That itself is reducing carbon emissions massively. Another thing is with the artisans themselves and shoemakers like Richard, who you met, we're paying him more than minimum wage, but just to track with what we just said, so the 3 hours that have been put into these uppers thus far, if that was minimum wage, we'd be talking $45 just for the labor of the upper. So that kind of gives an example of how much time and money when manufacturing in the States and trying to pay a living wage, like the cost goes up so much more of the shoes because we're talking $45 has been spent just on the labor to get these uppers made. Not even the material, not even the labor yet of the lasting and the assembly with the soles. And that $45 is about half of what the overall spend is with this pair of shoes, just to get them made in the process that we're doing right now. And because of that, and with that, we're paying a living wage. We're supporting Richard to do what he is so good at doing, and we're not trying to set up or run in a factory that's cranking people to do what they can at max capacity all the time, and the result of that just being, like we talked about, them sitting on a shelf. Next thing in terms of sustainability that we can talk about is material. This material is all sourced locally. This is all less emissions just from that, not shipping everything all over the world to get it, put it all together. So we're sourcing everything as locally as we can, and ideally shipping out as locally as we can. So right now we only have our LA location, but eventually we want to open up other locations in like something like Austin or New York or London, so that then we can ship from those locations as well. So it's less sending stuff way across the world It's
Yeah,
locally, but it's shipping locally as well.
that's that's probably one of the best things I've heard. The whole time we've been talking, I've been trying to, in my head, figure out how you could scale without overproducing shoes and becoming basically a facsimile of the stuff that's already being done.
Yeah, the plan is just to replicate this in other cities.
That's genius. I think that's smart, especially with the storefront and the fact that people can walk in and you now have that ability to just everywhere where you have maybe artisans, craftsmen who can create these shoes,
Yeah.
you're creating industry.
Yeah.
That's a huge selling point, man. So it's like, hey, you know what? We're going to look at setting up in places where we know that there are shoe dogs.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think the people that are listening to this and watching this, and then we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. The people that are listening to this and watching this, there's considerable opportunity here. And the important process of creating a shoe from scratch, yeah, obviously I'm doing it because I want to get the message out there. But more important, there just has to be some type of change in America with the amount of money that we um, associate with the creation of art. And I consider apparel and footwear as wearable art. There has to be an association made with quality and the pricing, and we have to take advantage of that. So I got a call coming in. I want to thank Noah, Community Made, for rapping with us again. We got everything straight this time. We got the video good.
One last note in terms of sustainability as well. This is a little different than what people tend to talk about sustainability in terms of, but we also give back a percentage of each of our shoes to not only local charities, but to whatever charity now that people want the portion of their shoe sale to go to a charity. They can choose that charity and we'll donate it to them. So we're also giving back with each pair sold, not just trying to make a sustainable shoe, but also trying to support people doing other things in the world.
Well, let's end it on the shot that I really like, which is the medial side, and where you have that gold foil stamp, handcrafted in downtown LA. We need people to see that, and that's amazing and dope. Thanks, Noah, for the next one. The next video will be a little bit further apart in time because I think the next one will be going directly into the actual shoe, right?
Yeah, we should have the finished shoe in the next video. So
cool. Thanks, Noah. That's a pretty long video. We could have gotten it shorter, but I think it's really informative and people are going to appreciate it. I'll see you guys on the next one. Thanks to Community Made. In the description, you guys can use the link, ask questions, as many as possible. Thanks, Noah. Let's end this.
Thanks, Chris.
Peace.